Horikoshi, you have been on a roll with these recent chapters of Boku no Hero Academia. Last week, we got some really good insight to Twice in his mentality and how he views his quirk. This week, we get an entire chapter focused on All For One and All Might talking with each other, and on paper that doesn't sound like something that would be relatively completely entertaining, but this chapter was fascinating because of what the dialogue was about. And overall, the chapter is relatively simple, but there is some meaning to what this chapter stood for, and I like where Horikoshi was taking it. So, let's talk about what this chapter was about. So, getting down to the simple terms of it, it was pretty much All Might talking to All For One, asking him what it was his plan, why, or where is Shigaraki, and All For One's like, I have no idea, and all that, and he's like, I'm curious, how is the world? It was just like an exchange of information back and forth, like a natural interrogation, but then it led into something that was a little bit more meaningful, and the entire topic took a spin when you realize what All For One was saying to All Might is like he was speaking about himself. Like when he was stating like, oh, how does it feel to know that you, being powerless, someone that can't stand up, be the symbol of peace that everybody envisions as a hero, how does it feel to know that you have now fallen down to the ground as a mere mortal, someone that can't do anything, and now, you falling down, all of these villains you have suppressed for many, many years now, since you have been the symbol of peace, is now creeping out of the shadows, new villains are popping up, and now, there is a lot of chaos happening. How does it make you feel, All Might, that you're the one now that has created this situation thanks to you falling from your pedestal? And when you think about that, it has a big message here. All Might, we know he blames himself. We know he struggled a lot to finally give up that torch to Izuku. And when he finally did, it symbolized that he is finally done. He can't do anything. He is powerless. He can't stand up and even protect anyone now, even though in his core nature, he wants to save people. But now, he can't. And with All For One talking to All Might like this, just putting him down, just saying how does it make you feel and all that to know you're powerless and weak, how do you feel about that? It's kind of like All For One was saying that about himself. Now you're probably thinking like, whoa, what the fuck are you talking about? As we know, All For One, he is someone that has, over many, many years now, he's been collecting quirks inside of himself. He is someone that's constantly got all of these quirks. But then, on top of that, he eventually got a successor, and the reason for this was because he was barely holding on, and I love what he said about himself. He's like, All Might, a long time ago, I used to be someone that was limitless, someone that was completely strong, someone that had so many abilities, someone that was literally the pinnacle of villains. Very similar to how you were, All Might. Someone that was pretty much the symbol of chaos. You're the symbol of peace, I was the symbol of chaos. I was very similar to you, All Might, but on the opposite side. We're the same, you and I. That's kind of what he was saying. Like, even though I'm a villain, you're a hero, what we stood for and what we were trying to accomplish was very similar. You were trying to stand up and be a true hero, I was trying to stand up and be a true villain. And so, with me, someone that had all these limitless abilities, someone that could do so much, finally toppling and falling off their pedestal onto the ground like a mere mortal, and I was limited, how does that make you feel, All Might? Do you feel the same way? That's kind of how All For One was talking to All Might. He was like, what you're going through right now is what I went through. What you did to me a long time ago, when you did this to my body, and now I have fallen to the ground, I am no longer that symbol of villains anymore, this symbol of chaos. How does it make you feel, All Might? How does it make you feel now that you're going through what I was going through, and why I had to find a successor? That really hits you when you think about the dialogue of this chapter. What All For One was saying to All Might could be kind of twisted a little bit, like, just change the wording just a little bit, and this could have been All Might saying the exact same dialogue to All for One. Just imagine it, like, change, like, you know, how does it make you feel that the villains are, like, rising up? Change villains to heroes, and change a little bit of the wording, and that could be All Might saying that to All for One. And so, what's going on here is that All Might is going through something slightly different, but very similar to what All for One went through in the past, and how, thanks to him falling from grace, you had it to where a bunch of villains just fell down, and they fell to the ground, and they no longer could do anything, and then you had to where the heroes were rising up, which was what All Might was doing. He was making a golden age. He was making it to where villains no longer really wanted to creep out of the shadows, and it was thanks to All for One falling is how this happened in the first place. Thanks to him falling, it made a bunch of heroes pop up. And so, with that being said, the dialogue of this chapter goes towards both characters, not just All Might, but also for All for One. So Horikoshi, I like what you did with this chapter. It was very simple, but it was something that had a very good message to it, showing how even though they're on the opposite side of each other, one's a villain, one's a hero, you cannot have light without dark. You can't have dark without light. And also sometimes what the motive is of certain said characters on the opposite side are very similar, just a little bit different in terms of their methods. So I like the direction that's going on here and how All for One was talking like that to All Might. Now, enough of that, let's talk about something that also happened with this chapter, besides, you know, this ending stuff with Bakugo and Izuku. There's a lot of death flags for All Might, and you could really place it on his head in this chapter. And since the very beginning of Boku no Hero Academia, there has been death flags on All Might since, like, chapter 1. It's not something that just came out of nowhere. We know All Might was destined to die, but somehow he beat all those odds. Horikoshi did something very unexpected, and All Might survived his fight with All for One. But after that fight, All Might has fallen to the ground, and he is weak. And I personally feel that All for One doesn't want to kill All Might. Now, hear me out, okay? Hear me out. He wants to kill him, but not right now. When All Might said, I will not allow you to kill me. I will not allow you to kill me. I will not allow Shigaraki to kill me. I will crush what you stand for. In a way, that's not what All for One wanted. He wants All Might to suffer. I feel like All for One is trying to convey a message to All Might. You see what I've been through all these years after what you did to my body? Now look at your body and what's going on with it right now. That is what I went through. I want you to suffer over the years. And I feel like that's kind of what his objective is. He wants to allow it to sink in all the horror and chaos that's going on in the world, and All Might can't do anything to stop it. I feel like All for One wants that to kind of be his first objective, and then once All Might can't take it anymore, then he dies. I feel like that is what All for One is building up, and that is the death flag that's been planted on All Might's head. Now, besides that, let's talk about the situation of Izuku. So Izuku, he is someone that has had this complicated situation for a while with Bakugo. And Bakugo is someone that we know always thought he was superior. He had a little bit of a shitty personality earlier on in the series, but he's toned down a lot, and he's shown to be a rather good guy. And we know for the past couple chapters now, since he said borrowed power to Izuku, he's someone that hasn't really tried to look at Izuku. He's someone that hasn't really tried to interact with him at all, and he hasn't shown any despicable personality or a shitty personality towards Izuku. He's just been very, I guess, non-forward with him. He's someone that's just been off in the distant, not, you know, really wanting to be around him, because I feel like Bakugo, he knows what's going on. He's an intelligent individual. He knows since Izuku has a borrowed power, and after the face he saw from Izuku when he saw the news, and after what happened to All Might, Bakugo most likely pointed the dots together and realized that Izuku has All Might's ability somehow. And you gotta realize how this must make Bakugo feel. I mean, Bakugo, he idolized All Might. He really likes All Might, and he wants to surpass him, but he really looked up to All Might as a kid. And you gotta realize, someone that's always felt like they are superior, someone that felt like they're powerful, someone that felt like they were better than anyone, especially someone that was powerless, and someone like Izuku, he always thought he was top dog. But now knowing that All Might is the one that gave him his power, if he does know, or if he finds out next chapter, you gotta realize what that's gonna do to Bakugo's mind. He's gonna be thinking like, You're telling me All Might, the person I looked up to, he gave such a weak person his ability, but he didn't give it to me? That's gonna make Bakugo jealous, but also it's gonna make him think a little bit differently how he's viewed Izuku throughout his entire life. And there's a lot of character development that can happen here because of what is being set up at the end of this chapter, and I can't wait to see what Horikoshi is going to do with it, because, I mean, Bakugo, he could, maybe reveal the secret, or maybe Izuku might, tell him the secret, and Bakugo keep it to himself, or Izuku will decide to not say anything even though Bakugo knows, which can hurt the relationship even more. I mean, you gotta think about this, okay? All Might hasn't revealed overall how to exchange the quirk and give it to someone else besides the people he passes it to, and so when you think about it like this, we do know that All Might has people near him that know his secret, and it makes sense that Bakugo and Izuku would be kind of that start as well. I mean, Izuku needs someone he can, talk to about his secret as well with his quirk ability, and I feel like Bakugo is a very good start. Now, Izuku obviously could lie about this and not say anything, which could lead into a lot of complicated issues. For instance, Bakugo and Izuku's relationship becoming even worse, and then Bakugo maybe saying something because he might know something. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities something can happen there. Now, besides that, however, we also have the investigator that talked to Stain and got some information out of him, so that's something I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing what Stain has to say, because, as I've said many times, Stain is literally one of my fucking favorite characters of Boku no Hero Academia. What he stands for as a villain and a hero, like, just his role in the series is just too fucking important, and him having something to say to the investigator, I can't wait to see what he had to say. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You'll have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.